What this film really wants me to understand is that Elphaba's being wicked because she's refusing to let go of Jonathan Bailey.
Valid.
It was never Glinda's man. Ever.
It's this.
It's the
And you're listening to It's Really That Deep. D, what have you been up to?
I've been watching a bunch of other movies actually, so and TV shows. I've very much been enjoying Pluribus. I've watched If I Had Legs I Would Kill You. I randomly watched Pulp Fiction as well, the classic that a lot of people like. I didn't like it at
Okay.
all.
Yeah, I don't love Pulp Fiction
No,
either.
no, no, it wasn't for me. A bunch of other things as well, and also Sentimental Valley really touched me and encouraged me to spend some more time with my sister. So I caught up
Oh,
with my sister this weekend, which is really nice. And isn't that a powerful symbol of film? What about you? What have you been up to?
I've been battling illness, so I'm going to sound very nasal today. Like you, I've also just been, for whatever reason, diving into watching lots of movies. You'd think after LFF, I'd be a bit drained, but somehow I've been in the mood. I watched In the Mood for Love, I watched Carol, I watched lots of old movies. I've also been watching Pluribus. Then, this weekend I watched Wicked for good. Today we're talking Wicked for Good, a 2025 American musical fantasy film directed by John M. Chu. The first Wicked came out 1 year ago. It grossed over $750 million and received multiple Oscar nominations. Wicked for Good was filmed at the same time as Wicked. It stars an ensemble cast that includes Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Yeoh. Why are we discussing Wicked for Good, D?
Well, first of all, you can't really escape the marketing for this film, actually. That's the first thing. But also, we both loved the first one, and I was really, really excited to watch the second one. And also, the film, it makes sense for us to cover it. There are a lot of themes here which overlap with stuff that we discuss, such as otherism, basically, if you want a broad term. But the film specifically gets into what is effectively a type of racism. What about you?
Same. We loved the first one. I love Jonathan Bailey. I'll watch literally anything he does. So yeah, and my Niger sister Cynthia Erivo is the lead. So yeah, I was going to watch it regardless. I've seen the stage musical before, but like many people, I have no memories of the second act. I only remember the first act. So I actually went into this pretty much blind. I barely remember anything. I definitely don't remember the songs the way I knew all the songs from Act One.
So I haven't seen the musical, but a lot of people have told me actually that the second half falls flat. But I still feel like if you're gonna turn this into a whole production, I'm still expecting something worth while watching. Okay, was Wicked good, bad, or mid?
Wicked for Good was mid.
Wicked for good was mid, leaning on bad. It was leaning on bad for me.
Okay, let me tell you why I think Wicked for Good was mid. Overall, I was entertained, right? But that's not because of a lot of things that were put together in this film. The songs dragged. It's clearly not as good as one. I dislike the new songs that they added in. The script and the dialogue felt distractingly worse. The acting from Michelle Yeoh was shocking. It looked washed out, grayer, and even worse backlit than the first one. Wizard of Oz, which was made in 1939, almost 100 years ago, looks significantly better than this film and significantly visually more appealing. The animal CGI was as horrible as ever. The editing and the pacing was weird. I didn't care about the animals. However, I thought the costumes were pretty cool. The practical effects and the practical production design was nice. And ultimately, the real reason I was still entertained by this film as I was leaving theaters is because the core three, Cynthia, Jonathan, and Ariana, are still pretty charming, and the goodwill I had from the first movie carried over for me. This film felt too sentimental to me. The non-stop teariness didn't work for me. But ultimately, again, I like our three leads enough that I was like, okay, I was still kind of entertained. But it's not a great film.
My main critique with this film is that I don't think they should have separated it into two projects. I think that they should have
Really?
yeah, this second half was not strong enough to stand alone, and I feel like they executed the first one so well, and they knew that the power of that would carry over to this one, but they haven't really delivered, right? Let's be honest. In my personal opinion, at least, they haven't really delivered with the second one. So I think what they should have done is edited part one properly, Okay, it didn't need to be that long. Add an intermission and then just slap on like 1 hour of this second half because there was no story here actually, right? Of course, the other things I would say that I did enjoy are, like you say, the core three: Jonathan Bailey, Cynthia Erivo, and of course Ariana Grande are very strong. Although I do think because the script itself is so weak this time, and also more importantly, the music is so weak this time, they didn't get the opportunity to shine. So actually, I'm not expecting to see any big awards for these three. Unfortunately, I
I
wish they got it
agree.
last time. Although I didn't care for the music in general, there was one song that worked really, really well for me and just had me feeling all sorts of things. And that's the one about where Elphaba is talking about whether or not she should stay in this place anymore and has her time come to an end, and seeing her battle with it. It really worked for me.
I hated that song actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really, really worked for me. I have a lot of questions around the legality with regards to the red shoes. I just have a lot of questions there. But on that note, I think that costuming and set design in general was still very, very strong. But we've already seen that sort of stuff anyway. I think the big problem I have with this film, aside from what I've already said, is that it feels too male centered. And I don't know if that's coming from the source material. I haven't seen the play. Maybe that's literally what the play says. But I understood this story to be about a female friendship that has so many different pressures on it, whether it's desirability, politics, and such, and how they're able to overcome to build a strong connection. But the ending of this film has me feeling that this whole thing was just about fighting over a man. So that was really, really disappointing for me.
In response to that, I would say, and yet this film felt extremely sapphic to me. It felt even more sapphic
Really?
than the first one. Oh yeah,
For
aggressively so.
me. In general, I don't think this film was, it didn't look very good, but the CGI was particularly distractingly bad for all of the animals. I wish they just didn't have any animals. And I don't understand why there's been such a regression because we've had other films in the past that involve animals that weren't this bad.
Shocking, shocking CGI, shocking, scandalous actually.
I know a lot of people were upset about Michelle Yeoh in the previous film, but she didn't really bother me then. I actually kind of liked her, even though she can't sing. But this time around, she was distractingly miscast.
Let's talk about the narrative. Wicked for Good is set in the land of Oz before, during, and after the events of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It explores the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda as they embrace their new identities as the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda for Good. In Act 1, 5 years after defying the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Elphaba continues battling for animal rights in a forest hideout. We find out Glinda is engaged to Fiyero. Elphaba goes to go and visit her sister Nessa Rose, who is now the governor after their dad has died. Nessa Rose is basically keeping Buck captive there, and she has forced all munchkins to stay. She's turned into a bit of a tyrant. Buck tries to leave when Elphaba visits because he hears that Glinda and Fiyero are getting married. But Nessa casts a love spell on him, but it backfires, shrinking his heart. Elphaba tries to save him, but in the process, she turns him into a tin man. What did you think about our re-entry into the world of Oz in the first act of this film?
It felt very blunt. Like, again, this is what I'm saying. I don't think this should have been a separate film. This was the second part of the first film, and it should have been packaged as one film with maybe an intermission and some proper editing. One thing I will say is the very first entry scene that we see some animals being enslaved basically, and again, this is the metaphor this film is making for what we would basically say are underclasses, people who are oppressed in order for us to have the society and the myths that go with it. I think in the beginning as well, like we see Elphaba being reintroduced to the wizard quite quickly, and there's just no like conflict. Like this man has been telling people to kill you. There was no conflict there. It was really, really distorting for me. I couldn't. It was really bad. I'm not gonna lie. What did you think?
So I don't fully agree with you that this film should have been folded into part one because I'm not sure that we would have thought part one was as good a movie as it is if it carried the entire Wicked story. The Wicked story is long. It's not an easy story to tell in 2 hours or less. And I think what scenes would they have cut out of the first film, I can't think of a lot. In fact, the scenes they already cut out from the first film, I thought were a mistake to remove them. I don't know if it's an easily solvable problem. Act 2 of Wicked is just not very good, full stop. It's structurally not good, in my opinion. The book is better. The musical has always been structurally problematic because they soften a lot of the content of the book to make it more family friendly. And because they're trying to show the backstory of what's going on in the real events of the film, The Wizard of Oz, for them to also make it palatable while trying to explain what's going on behind the scenes of the villain, I just think it's fundamentally kind of not structurally nonsensical. And clearly, the songwriters just were more motivated when they were writing this first half of the songs in the book, and by the second half, they were just like, whatever. So I'm
Mm.
not sure that that would have necessarily solved the problem. For this first act, I was watching it and I was just like raising my eyebrows through. I didn't have much to say. It was just like, okay. I don't I don't think the second half does all the animal allegory as well as the first half does, because
No,
the
not at
animals don't
all.
feel like real characters or
Nope.
beings at all. In Act 2, Elphaba is almost wooed into joining Glinda at the wizard again, but then she finds animals imprisoned within his lair. She then decides to crash Fiyero and Glinda's wedding. Fiyero actually helps her escape during the wedding. Glinda is heartbroken and she plots to lure Elphaba out via Nessa. Elphaba and Fiyero profess their love. Mistress Morrible creates a tornado that lands famous Dorothy from Wizard of Oz on Nessa, killing her. Elphaba finds out and she's upset. She and Glinda fight, and then the guards come when Fiyero tries to rescue Elphaba, and they drag him away, and he's beat up. What did you think about the second half? What did you think about the royal wedding? Sorry, not the second half, Act 2.
Act two. Yeah, I didn't really care about anything, to be honest. Again, I think this is where the whole like male centeredness really starts to kick off in this film. Like the fight that they have about Fiyero. A nice tidbit though is that it is foreshadowed in the first one where they have their little sparring session in the school, which is cool. But yeah, it's just like you
Mm.
guys are fighting over a man that doesn't want either of you. Like Loki, oh, but he wants Elphaba, I guess. But it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what this film is trying to say, honestly. And like you said, it is a kids movie at the end of the day. So I'm just a bit perplexed by it. Also, one thing I will say though is the writing for Nessa works very well for me. I hated that woman in the first film, and now I've hate her. I was so happy when the house dropped on her. But I was no, she's a villain. She is like up there. She's probably worse than the wizard in my opinion. I'm sorry, she's terrible. Having said that, I do think that this is where the whole Dorothy and Wizard of Oz kind of storyline became problematic for me. I understand this may be in the source material, but it just felt like it was clunky. It felt like it was being shoehorned in,
I agree.
and Act Two is where that really starts to be a problem for me. What about you?
I agree on that. I think that they made a creative decision with this film to not show
Yeah.
Dorothy and her and Toto and her characters clearly on camera, because they don't want to distract from the fact that this is actually a story about Elphaba and Glinda, right? But the way they go about doing it just feels
It's weird.
discombobulated and jarring. I
Mm-hmm.
agree on that. As for the royal wedding, this is the second time I'm seeing Jonathan Bailey walking out on his wedding day to go and chase after a brown girl. So, so that was amusing to me. Yeah, again, not much to say. When it came to the fight, I did like Ariana's moment.
Mm-hmm.
That was amusing, but other than that, it just felt silly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's when I was like, yeah, this really is a children's movie. And since the first film is somewhat like that, but I think the strength and the emotional depth of the songs
Yeah.
actually lifts away from the juvenile nature of the actual story a bit, in
Mm-hmm.
a way that because you've lost the power of the songs in this film, it's exposing just how childish some of this stuff is.
So Act Two has the let's say the romantic scene between Elphaba and Fiyero. It's probably the most cringe thing I've seen this year. It was like actually really bad.
No.
And obviously there may be reasons for that. But I just think that like why did Elphaba need to suddenly start stripping down? Like it was just really weird. It was really weird. There was zero chemistry between them. And I understand, yes, ultimately it's a kids' film. I'm not exactly expecting people to get frisky, right? But it was very uncomfortable for me to watch.
It's so interesting because I found that whole scene to be simultaneously extremely desexed, but also at the same time more explicit than I expected it to be. At the
Exactly.
same time, it was the strangest thing. I think Jonathan Bailey and Cynthia Erivo had good chemistry in the first film. I
Mm.
thought those scenes where like they are in the woods and stuff like that, when she touches his face in the first film, and when they're saying goodbye from Shiz University, I thought they had good chemistry. In the second film, I don't know what happens, but like the chemistry just gets weirder. Even though Jonathan Bailey, he's really doing his best to be yearning and his eyes are longing and all of that. And I've seen Cynthia Erivo have good chemistry with people before. She definitely has good chemistry with Ariana. But so you're right, it's weirdly sexist because they have her wearing this huge knit jumper, who I don't know which woodland creatures knitted that jumper for her. And but then she's stripping down, he's pulling down his suspenders. I'm like, okay, so is this supposed to be giving intimacy? But then they can't go there. So like it kind of cuts in very jarring ways. But then the next time you see them, they want to make it unambiguously clear that they have clearly
Yes.
just had sex. Like
Let's address that ridiculous line that Alphabet says about how today I feel wicked. I
it's
was
a
literally like,
it's an iconic line from the
I'm
play.
sorry. I'm sorry. It's the worst thing I saw this year.
Oh my god, not too much on my face. Not too much. But we need to talk about how Fiyero was doing all of that on his wedding day to another girl.
Yeah, but he already told. Listen, I don't feel sorry for women like Glinda in real life as well. If a man has told you multiple times he doesn't want you, you need to listen. Stop being silly.
So in Act 3, after Fiyero has been dragged away unharmed, Elphaba embraces her evil reputation, and to try to save him, she casts a spell that transforms him into a scarecrow. Dorothy arrives to the Wizard of Oz, who tells her to go and kill the Wicked Witch. Meanwhile, Buck, who is now the Tin Man, forms an angry mob against Elphaba. Glinda reflects on all the things that have happened in her life that have brought her to this point, and she feels some regret. Elphaba imprisons Dorothy. Then Glinda arrives where they're at. They reaffirm their friendship and share a tearful goodbye, and the song for good is sung. Then Glinda hides and watches as Dorothy douses Elphaba in water, seemingly killing her. Glinda brings the wizard this elixir that Elphaba had had, which makes him realize he's Elphaba's biological father. Glinda
Oh my
becomes
god.
Glinda Glinda becomes Ozzy's leader. She apprehends Morrible and exiles the wizard. Fiyero arrives at the castle where Elphaba has been hiding underneath a trapdoor, having faked her death to ensure she's never seen in Oz again. They depart Oz, and then finally we see that the Grimoire, the magic book, activates for Glinda, showing that she finally has magic. And that is the end of Wicked for Good. What did you think of Act 3?
I couldn't believe that this is where the film was going. Like, again, this is where the whole Wizard of Oz becomes a like storyline becomes a big, big, big problem for me. And again, if that's coming from the source material, I get it. But if it isn't, and they were just shoehorning things in, which I do suspect so, because for example, that scene with Glinda and Elphaba when the house is dropped on Nessa, it shouldn't go that way if it's like actually telling the story of Wizard of Oz, right? Um, it just felt very clunky and rushed, and I think it's unnecessary. I don't think you need to do all of that. I feel like the one thing I need to call out in this act is the reveal of the Scarecrow as Jonathan Bailey.
Not too
I
much.
literally almost choked on my whatever I was eating, maybe my popcorn, my soda, whatever it was. I choked. I couldn't believe it. It's like it was embarrassingly bad. Okay. First of all, I feel like the wizard features in this far more than he needs to. He's really not that important. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. As you can tell, I'm feeling very negative about it. I just didn't care about anything. No music to talk about here either. I don't even care about For Good as a song.
I thought Act 3 was so unserious. Again, I watched this play before I knew everything that was going to happen. But as I was watching it unfolding in front of me, I was like, this is just not serious. When she's screeching at Dorothy, you better give me back my shoes for my sister. I was like, this is so unserious. And then the decision not to show the scarecrow, like they're doing all these like awkward angles to make sure you don't see him until the end, but you know he is moving around with Dorothy and the Tin Man, and I was like, does this really make any sense?
No.
And and I detested the new song they wrote for this film, Girl in the Bubble, the Ariana Grande Glinda solo. I
Mm.
hated the song. I hated how long it was. I disliked the whole set piece of her walking around the house or whatever, how dragged out it was for her to realize that, oh, I've been conditioned this whole time to seek public approval, but I shouldn't. Especially considering at the end of the film, when
Exactly.
she becomes a new dictator and she holds everybody accountable except for herself. I was just like,
She
okay.
doesn't learn anything. She doesn't actually get changed. I have so many questions as well about like,
So unserious.
how does she get powers then? How does she suddenly get powers?
It because you can only get powers when you're deserving of them. When you
Oh, for
show
God's
when that
sake.
goodness has been revealed, blah
Okay, so
blah
why does
blah.
Nessa have powers then? Why does Nessa have powers?
Because Nessa, haven't all of us been down bad over a man
Oh, for
before?
God's sake. This film is so silly,
It's
honestly.
so silly.
It's
It's
so
so silly.
embarrassing.
It's not serious. I think that's why if you asked me like 2/3 of the way into the film, I'd have been really pissed. But by the time we got to the very end, I was just like, this is just so unserious. Like I was laughing. I was just like, this is just so unserious. We watched the original Wicked together. I was emotionally enraptured throughout the time I was watching Wicked. I was crying, I was singing, I was laughing, I was hugging. Like, I was so moved by Wicked. Wicked for Good, I was just like, this is just a silly kids film.
And that's why I feel like they shouldn't have separated it out, because I get what you're saying about the first movie is so powerful and it's a perfect product on its own. But if we're going to have Act 1, we need to have Act 2, which is just a massive disappointment. So now the taste in my mouth for Wicked is disappointing.
Ooh.
And I hate that for Wicked.
Let's talk about the themes of this film, if there are any. What do you what do you have to say about how this film addresses political propaganda?
Nowhere near as good as the first one. So when I watched the first one, I'd heard loads of people say that they loved the play, but I still had low expectations just because when it comes to musicals, they're really hit or miss for me. So I went in with low expectations, but I left feeling elated. I had a wonderful feeling when I left the cinema. I couldn't wait for this new one, and one of the reasons why is because yes, it's got all of the campness and it's got all of the the chaos and stuff, but it handles very serious topics really well. And I found myself relating to Elphaba on multiple levels. Whether it's me as a black woman, whether it's me as a diasporan, whether it's me as someone who's experienced living in other countries as well. But this time around, I didn't care about anyone. I barely cared about Elphaba as well, actually, because she was behaving stupid in this film as well. She was very, very dumb. Yeah, so I felt like even the stuff with the animals, which I felt was done excellently in the first movie, like you say, I didn't care about them either because they're not.
No.
I wasn't made to feel their pain. We do see them being forced to build the yellow brick road in the beginning, and we see them kind of saying, "Oh, we have to get out of here." And I'm sure there are many people around the world with ancestries that will relate to that, right? This feeling that a place is no longer safe for you and you need to leave, right? That's touching on raw nerve for a lot of people.
I did find the idea of the animals being the ones that built the yellow brick road while being oppressed to be
Yeah,
like some kind of commentary on African Americans in the US.
yeah.
But like
Many communities.
light work.
Yeah.
True, actually, many.
But yeah, aside from that, it just didn't work for me. I am somewhat of a pessimist in that, unfortunately, I agree with the wizard when it comes to this idea that a lot of people just want to have certain things to believe in. I do think that a lot of people are just not interested in hearing revolutionary ideas. Now, the difference between me and the wizard is the wizard thinks that it's okay to go and take advantage of that. And, populist politicians feel that way as well. He's basically a populist. But yeah, unfortunately, this film almost feels like it's agreeing with me that people do need something to hold on to. That whether it's like nation myths, whether it's believing that immigrants are evil, whether it's believing whatever political myths there are, I feel that way, and then unfortunately the film didn't convince me, and I feel like that's scary for a kids film to be coming to that conclusion personally. But anyway, what did
I,
you think?
I think the problem with the way Wicked for Good handles political propaganda, and there were seeds of this in the first film, but it was covered up by the other greatness that was happening around it, is that the wider public of Oz, whether that's the Munchkins or the general Ozians, don't feel like real people. They don't exist. When you're watching this film, you can tell that every scene you're watching is a scene for a film. And what I mean by that is, to me, some of the greatest bits of fantasy film or sci-fi film, they feel like I am just peeking into a real world that actually exists. And that when the scene ends, those characters will continue existing and they'll continue interacting with each other, even though, of course, I know that they're fictional. But with Wicked for Good, and it was somewhat like this in Wicked, you see, when the Munchkins are talking or when they're all coming to see Glinda, I don't believe these are real people. I don't believe they live in any village. I don't believe they eat, they raise their children, they go to school, they cook, they clean. Yes, I do the cooking. Yes, I do the cleaning. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like they are just like extras in a film set standing on the set for a particular scene, and once the director yells cut, immediately all of it stops. Like there's no tangibility to what I'm watching. Our main characters feel somewhat tangible, but nothing else does.
I do agree with you, but let me tell you why it doesn't bother me. Because I believe that's how politicians view us, as in the general public.
Mm.
They don't think we're real people.
Yeah, I know, but it just didn't work for me. I think
I
it's
get it.
also because of the loss of She's University. She's University grounded our ensemble a bit more in something richer. Whereas because that set is lost in this film, it's just like these wide shots of the tulip fields and Munchkin Land, and I'm like, what does any of this actually mean? So yeah, none of that stuff really moved me either way. I want to talk about embracing your villain era, which I know that's what Wicked for Good is supposed to be. That's what Act 2 is supposed to be. And in theory, with this black woman that has been done wrong continuously, it should really hit. But by the time it comes in the film, because the pacing is so weird, it doesn't.
It's not even just the pacing for me, it's the writing. Okay? This and again, I have to bring up Nessa again. Nessa is the original hater. Well, her family in general is. Nessa is her original hater in this film though. And what do we see her doing? She immediately jumps back into older sister mode of trying to keep her happy. And that's actually how all of this stuff starts as well, like with turning people into the Tin Man and stuff like that. And then, of course, they go back to blame her. Nessa immediately puts the blame on her. So it's like, I'm sorry, if I was becoming wicked in this film, I would have banished Nessa a long time ago. And no, she has to go. And then also we have like the I think the big one for me is the wizard. You literally were in front of him. You were literally in front of him. This man has no powers. Yeah. If you're really embracing your wicked era, why didn't you do something to mess him up? Like something, even if you don't want to kill him, do something like take out his legs, turn him into a violin. I don't know, do something.
Not a violin. Because that's her daddy.
But so are we supposed to believe that she knew that?
It doesn't, it's unclear.
It's not
But
clear, right?
I thought it was obvious from the first film.
Oh, I didn't know. I found it very unserious.
It is very unserious. Because when they show her mommy
Yeah.
in the first film having her little dalliance with this man, he has the silhouette of Jeff Goldblum. What did you have to say about the de-aging CGI they did on him?
It was ridiculous. Again, I can't believe that this is this is going to be probably the highest grossing film this year, maybe behind Avatar. Let's see. It was bad. It was bad. I'm sorry.
I was laughing my ass off. I'm telling you, Act 3 is probably my favorite because at that point I was just like, you know what? This is not a serious film. This film is not winning any Oscars like the first. This is just laugh, just smile and wave, boy.
It's a money grab. Let's call it what it is. It's a money grab.
Ooh.
Yeah. And also the final thing on Elphaba, like trying to embrace her wickedness, is one of the reasons why I really don't like this film is because again it feels very male centered. Because what this film really wants me to understand is that Elphaba's being wicked because she's refusing to let go of Jonathan Bailey.
Valid.
It was never Glinda's man. Never.
You know what? On that note, let's go into our next topic, which is polyamory. Let's get into it. To me, this film is dancing around the fact that Glinda is in love with Elphaba. It has always been subtext in the play, less so in the book. In the play, that has always been subtext. There's always been a segment of fans that have read it that way. In the first movie, I think they were like playing with it in an almost joking way. In real life, Ariana and Cynthia have leaned all the way into it, especially Ariana.
Mm-hmm.
In this film, I think like it's extreme actually. The way she's conducting herself after the wedding, I don't believe she's crying over Fiyero. That scene where she goes to go and meet her before, Elphaba fake dies, and they're saying their over watery goodbyes, and they're longingly touching the walls and all of that. I was just like, okay. To me, it's not even just that they're implying a sapphic dynamic between them. I think they're implying that Glinda is more obsessed with Elphaba.
Really?
Now, you could say that, yes, that's the energy I get. And that's how a lot of people read it as well. And that's the strong vibe I was getting. Now, you could read it as like, she's like so obsessed with the idea of what Elphaba has, whether it's her power, it's her man, it's her independence, whatever. And that can read as just a general like infatuation with her. But whatever is going on, there's some sense of like obsession I'm getting from
Yes,
Glinda
agreed.
towards Elphaba.
Yeah.
But to me, they very much show that Elphaba is more into Fiyero. So the long story short, what I'm saying is the solution to everybody's problems is a throuple. Because Fiyero clearly, he likes Elphaba more, but he's happy doing some stuff to make Glinda happy. So just throuple it up.
It's a kid's movie.
Problem solved.
It's a kid's movie.
I'm being so serious. I'm actually not joking. It's just like the challenges thing. I'm starting to really struggle with these like films and TV shows where everybody is tearing their hair out saying, oh, how could we ever solve this situation where three of us are into each other? I'm like, just date each other and keep it pushy.
Well, I don't see that Elphaba's into Glinda at all. But one of my big problems with this film is that a lot of people are reading this as Glinda is her true friend and that there's a real relationship there. I don't think that Glinda is her friend. I don't think Glinda is Elphaba's friend at all. So the idea that she actually even loves her is wild to me because I'm like, she hates her. She clearly hates her. Clearly.
There's lots of people that hate people that still want to hook up with them, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think after another.
I do think that if anything, the obsession pathway makes a lot more sense to me because with those people who are obsessed, if you do something they don't like, it very, very quickly turns into very severe hatred. So I do believe that for Glinda. I think the reason why I can't see the sapphic energy between these two is because, number one, I don't see anything coming from Elphaba, especially not in this movie. In the other movie, maybe, but in this one, no. But more importantly, it's because, like, Glinda is so self-obsessed. Glinda loves Glinda. That Glinda's true love is Glinda. Yeah?
But that's because of when she was 7 years old and she was supposed to get a birthday gift and her mommy told her that she could and then she told her friends. That entire flashback scene unnecessary. They didn't tell us anything we didn't already know.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
The flashback in the first film where Elphaba sees baby Elphaba when she's falling down is so much more powerful.
Yeah, in general, I think Glinda's kind of backstory stuff doesn't work for me at all, ever. But yeah, she's obsessed with herself. So, do you know who it reminds me of? Julia Roberts' character in After the Hunt. Remember that the argument for that character was, oh, you're so obsessed with like people giving you attention. Glinda just wants attention. That's what it comes down to. And then she's jealous of Elphaba because she has the powers which she wants. I don't even think she likes Fiyero. I do think there's like a what's the word? Is it homoerotic? Like,
I know
she only wants Fiyero. She only wants Fiyero to piss off Elphaba. That's what it's really about.
Yes, it's like a homosocial thing. It's like that thing that happens with men where they use the women that they're supposedly acquiring to really prove themselves to other men.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes. That's why I said there's polyamory going on here. Different people are being used as mediums to express the emotions other people have for each other.
Yes, agree.
Fiyero is used to transfer energy between Elphaba and Glinda in various ways. Sometimes Elphaba is used to transfer energy between Fiyero and Glinda.
Yes.
Fiyero has never been into Glinda, but Glinda has always used Fiyero as like a status symbol. And in many ways, him really leaning all the way into Elphaba is him telling Glinda, you're not that bitch.
Yeah. But isn't that what her whole song is about? She co-ops, she even co-ops, she's so obsessed. She co-ops Elphaba's song.
She says, I'm not that bitch. I'm not that bitch.
It's crazy.
I will say that I thought Ariana, even though I thought the crying was a bit too much, I thought her vocals sounded rawer in this film than it did in the first one. It sounded less overproduced to me.
I felt the same for both Ariana and Cynthia Erivo, actually. So one of my big critiques of the previous film is that I felt like I didn't even hear Cynthia's voice like that. It just felt, like you say, overproduced, like doled down. I think they've corrected it this time around, but it just wasn't enough because the songs don't matter this time.
It's a pity that they've corrected it for the less iconic songs. Like, imagine if we got to hear proper raw, proper strong, popular, or I'm Not That Girl, or Defying Gravity. We're doing our Bechdel test segment. The Bechdel test is a measure of representation of women in film and other fiction. In Alison Bechdel's comic strip, one woman explains that she only goes to a movie if it satisfies the following requirements. The movie has to have at least 2 women in it. They need to talk to each other, and they need to talk to each other about something other than a man. Does Wicked for Good pass the Bechdel test?
Clearly, clearly.
Not only does it pass the Bechdel test, I'm pretty sure two men don't ever speak in this film if it doesn't involve a woman. Maybe Fiyero and the wizard speak, and maybe Fiyero speaks to the monkey if you count that as a man. But I'm not joking. I don't think two men ever really interact in
The
this film.
Tin Man. The Tin Man talks to the Wizard of Oz. But then again, he's
But he's
talking about a
he's talking
woman.
about girl, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when the Tin Man talks to the Wizard of Oz, what does he say? That, oh, we're going to kill the witch and that's it.
Yeah, basically.
It passes the Bechdel test with flying colors. Like, all Elphaba does is talk to other women, like Nessa Rose. I enjoyed the scenes with Nessa, even though again the
I
writing
did.
was clunky. The writing was clunky, but the actresses, you could tell they were like enjoying themselves.
And I think the way how Nessa was styled was excellent. Like I loved her
Yes.
dress and all of that stuff. I will say on gender though, one thing I continue to like about Wicked, even in this film as well, is the depiction of the, let's say, a minority woman's experience with white women when a man is showing them attention. And I still think that Ariana Grande,
Ooh.
like she does so well in this film as well. Just like if you're a woman of color and you've ever experienced a white woman seeing, or especially a white man showing interest in you, this film encapsulates that so beautifully. Even Glinda basically crashing out because she's realizing that, yeah, Fiyero, your prince that you've put on a pedestal, his preference is a green woman who's the outcast of society. And just seeing her like crash out and not understand why, because obviously throughout her whole life she's been told that she's the ideal woman and all of this stuff. I think it worked really well for me. And I think there's something important when it comes to kind of female relationships there. In general, I like the handling of female relationships and the way how the things like desirability politics, racism, I guess some class elements as well, how all of those pressures can put strains on a female relationship and what you have to do to overcome them.
I have to say the stuff with Mistress Morrible though in this film, when it comes to how they're speaking on relationships between women and mentor figures, were not as effective as the first film.
Agreed. I think this film does a really good job of showing what the dangers are of being a pick me. Nessa is a pick me from the last film to this film. All she does is worry about a man that does not want her, and she gets a house, landing on her and killing her while she was searching for him in the middle of a tornado, and he was not searching for her.
But why was she searching for that man though? Did she think he was going
But
to get rusty in the storm or what? A man that had just kind of threatened to kill her not long
yes,
before, no?
I found that very dark. By the way, I was shocked to see that. But anyway,
The original Wicked book is extremely dark. It's not a children's book at all. There is lots of physical violence. There's lots of it's very sexual. It's very dark. There's lots of trauma. It's a very dark book. Like the amount of sanitization that has happened to make the play is strong. And then the film sanitizes the play even further. Now we're going to do our Is It Really That Deep segment. The Mariana Trench is 6,000 fathoms deep and the lowest depth man has reached inside the earth. How deep is Wicked for Good out of 6,000 fathoms?
1,000 fathoms, and I'm really shocked that I have to give that rating because if you had asked me about the first film, probably I would say even as high as maybe 4,500. But like this film just doesn't have anything to say about the deeper themes the first film touched on. So no, what do you think?
1,500. And the only reason I'll add that 500 on top is because of maybe the commentary I might be reading about homosocialism that's going on here. But other than that, like, nothing is flimsy. Light. The internet has had a lot of thoughts about Wicked for Good. I have never seen my timeline taken over like this. And this film I think is going to significantly outgross the first one. So unfortunately, from the perspectives of the studios and the industries, which has been struggling with a very bad year for box office this year, this decision to split the movie was the correct decision to make, which is very scary because creatively,
Exactly.
the way it was handled was so poor. The fact that this film is going to go down in history as being so much more commercially successful than the first film is so wild to me. Also, they did less marketing for this film than they did for the first one. I guess because everybody that watched the first one was always going to watch the second one.
Exactly.
So they had done all the heavy lifting there. So in terms of strategy, it worked. But it's just crazy to me because the quality difference is so significant. It's one of the most drastic quality differences I've ever seen between a first film and a sequel. So it's Zay Okay on Twitter said, John M. must owe Michelle Yeoh some money or something. Let's talk about it because this is an Oscar-winning actress and a legendary film star. What is going on in these films with Michelle Yeoh?
She's just miscast. It's as simple as that. She's miscast. I don't know why he would cast her. She didn't cause a big problem for me in the first film, to be honest. Yes, her singing is wild, but it wasn't a big issue. But this particular movie, I think it's because she has one line that she says like 10 times, and then apart from that, there's nothing else that she adds. And then the fact that she can't sing doesn't work either. I found her performance to be very, very one note, and I get that she's supposed to be playing a very cold woman, so I do understand that. But when the power dynamic between her and Glinda switches, it was very jarring to me how she stayed one note. Like she did, I didn't see her panicking really, and even when she gets dragged away, it was very ridiculous. I'm afraid to
Ridiculous.
say I was disappointed, and I love Michelle Yeoh.
It's wild to me because I'm like, this is a serious actress we're talking about. So I'm just like, is it that she's just phoning it in? She's just picking up the check from Lionsgate. That's why I keep on going back and forth in my head about it. It's just like the check she's going to get from this is going to be one of the biggest checks of her career. Is that just what it is? She's just like, let me just get my money and get the hell out of here. I can't sing anyway.
Mm.
Or is there something else that for whatever reason she just wasn't able to connect with the script? Because I'm just like, why is this so bad from an actress I knows how to act? I will say though, like it got so bad, it kind of got good for me in this sequel. Like it got so cartoonishly terrible that I was kind of living a bit. And also,
Wow.
what I just find really funny is that Paul Taswell, the costume designer, keeps her looking fantastic at all moments from both the first and the second movie. So the fact that Michelle Yeoh is just giving this like very ridiculous performance, whilst that lace front is perfectly laid at all times, and that corset is always snatched, just amuses me. I think her physical acting with Ariana is good. Like there's moments where like Glinda is reaching out to Mistress Morrible, and she just kind of pushes her hand away, like, in a way
Mm.
that like she keeps on showing her physically in every way that like she really just does not rate her. I think that's fine. But you see, when they start acting with dialogue and like having facial expressions towards each other, no, no,
Mm.
not good. Yeah. Next up on Letterboxd, someone simply just put a an image from season 2 of Bridgerton where Anthony is supposed to be getting married to one sister. I can't remember her name, and then he is instead focusing on Kate Sharma, played by Simone Ashley, and just captioned it "Wicked for Good." And someone on Letterboxd also said, "If someone ruined my wedding to Jonathan Bailey, I too would drop a house on them." I just find it so funny because I remember when I watched the first Wicked, the way Fiyero and Elphaba meet is she's roaming around in the woods and he's riding on his horse and he almost bumps into her and they have like an antagonistic but flirtatious meet cute, and that is the exact first scene between Anthony and Kate in season 2 of Bridgerton. That is exactly how they meet. They then get into a messy love triangle where he is engaged to her sister whilst he's clearly pining over her. And on their wedding day, he walks out of the wedding and goes chasing after Kate, which is exactly what happens here. And I was literally like, did the success of Bridgerton season 2 and Jonathan Bailey's Anthony, is that what helped him secure this role? Because I'm
Probably
like,
then.
the similarities are just too crazy. Whilst I enjoyed the similarities in Wicked, and I thought the buzz and the fun and the chemistry was almost as good as it was with Bridgerton season 2 between Jonathan Bailey and Simone Ashley. In Wicked for Good, I kept on comparing it to Bridgerton season 2, and not in a positive way. The wedding scene is so crazy in Bridgerton season 2 when he leaves that wedding and goes chasing after Kate. It's so much fun, and their chemistry is so good, and when they hook up, it's so satisfying. Whereas in For Good, I was just like, I want, I just want more, and especially because I really, really, really like Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero. So I enjoy when he's on screen. I just, I just felt like the clunkiness of the script does not let the story relinquish itself into Fiyero and Elphaba the way it should. And if you see clips of the musical, when they've cast a very good Fiyero and Elphaba, the second act is saved by how invested you're supposed to be in that dynamic.
I see. Okay.
It's a pity. Jaden on Letterboxd said, "Singing while Dorothy is in the basement is crazy." And it wasn't until I saw this that I remembered that, oh, it's true. When they're singing For Good, that little girl is stuck inside that basement.
Again, I feel like they just shoehorned the character in general.
It's true.
They
That's
didn't.
so insane.
Yeah.
They're singing and crying and hugging and saying, "I love you." Meanwhile, this little 10-year-old girl is crying for her mommy in the basement.
And we don't hear her screaming or anything like that.
Nothing. And Glinda, you don't care. You don't even say, okay, Elphaba, I love you, but let me come and release this girl. No!
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the prosthetics, the hair, the makeup. Because on Letterboxd, Billy said, I gasped for air when the Scarecrow appeared and it looked like Ryan Reynolds.
It's true, you know. It's actually true.
What was going on? I went to go and look at pictures of the 1939 Wizard of Oz Scarecrow. 100 years ago almost. And even I looked at Michael Jackson's Scarecrow from the iconic classic The Wiz.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those scarecrows looked more serious than this scarecrow. What is going on?
I don't know what's going on with this film and its CGI budget. Like, I don't know.
The crazy thing, D, is that is actually practical effects to some degree on Jonathan Bailey's face. To some degree, I think there's also some CGI going on. I'm not sure about that hair. But they did make some kind of like straw thing that they glued onto his face. But it still looks crazy.
Mm-hmm. I was, my jaw dropped. I think it was at that point that I realized that I wasn't going to take this film very seriously.
How did your audience in your cinema react?
Like, I laughed, a bunch of other people laughed. Yeah. One thing to say about the cinema experience though is it was shockingly silent. And that's why I knew that it's not being received as well.
Yeah, whereas like Wicked, we were watching Wicked on opening day. It was so lively in there.
Yeah.
When I was leaving my cinema, at the end of the film, at the end of For Good, and when you see Elphaba and Fiyero walking off into the distance and you see like the flashbacks. And one thing I would say I absolutely loved is the scene where they are flashing back to all of them in the meadow and Glinda is wearing like a little white hood and she turns and she's whispering in Elphaba's ear and they basically recreate the iconic Wicked musical cover art, which up to this point, I thought they were never going to reference that because there was a whole controversy with Cynthia Erivo responding to a fan who made made a fan-made poster about it. And so when that moment happens that they recreate the cover, I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. But then that was the only warmth I felt towards that ending. But the girlies in my theater at the end of the film were crying quite a lot. Yeah. But I understood why they were crying. I think, again, it's all about that goodwill that you carry over from the first film.
Exactly.
There's a sense of, oh, it's over now, like this little magical escapade we've all been on for the last 1 year or so. It's wrapped up. And the film does a lot of swelling of, trying to get that nostalgia to hit you. And I was sad to see everything wrap up because, again, I really did love the first one very much. And I've enjoyed watching Cynthia and Ariana, like, embody these characters. So I understand why, like, you will get a bit sentimental, but it's not necessarily because of what the film is actually doing in Wicked for Good. Last thing, I just wanted to talk about some commentary people made about the dynamics between these characters, because Mark on Letterboxd said 137 minutes of Glinda and Fiyero competing to see who can yearn for Elphaba the hardest. I also saw another tweet where someone said that it's the fact that Elphaba was wearing that lace under her outfit when she went to crash that wedding meant that she had intentions to take someone home that night, regardless of who it would be. And someone also said, the way this is a picture of Bok, Elphaba, Nessa, Fiyero, and Glinda hanging out together and smiling, and all the flashbacks in the film, they imply a much deeper friendship between the entire group that just doesn't exist in the text of the film. I think that's very important.
That's a big point.
That's very important. It is really that deep. We're supposed to believe like a real camaraderie developed between these people, but they don't really show it to us. The only time we see all these characters interacting is during the Ozdust in the first film, where we're even just establishing that, okay, Glinda and Elphaba are forming some kind of like friendship after their initial antagonism. That's it. We don't see them collectively hanging out as a group, except in the flashbacks. But like, I think something is lost in the edit there.
Yeah, but I think that's the edit of the first film that's failing there. I think they should have planted that seed from then.
I agree.
Because I was shocked to see that Nessa knew anything about Elphaba and Fiyero.
Did she?
Yeah, she makes a comment in this film that, oh, you're just going because you want to be with Fiyero or something like that.
Exactly.
Again, being a pick-me. Can't stand that woman.
Dee, what would you give Wicked for Good out of 10?
I'm afraid I can't give Wicked more than a 4 out of 10.
Oh my god.
I was really disappointed. Like, I can't stress enough how disappointed I was. Now, to be fair, I probably am holding this film to a very high standard because of the standard that the franchise set for itself. I was I wasn't engaging with the plot at all. A lot of the things that I loved about the first film, aside from like the technicals, they just didn't apply in this one, which was like the general kind of broader commentaries on society. Although I do think the commentaries on competition among women does work. I did really like that song about what it means to radically choose to stay in a place that doesn't like you and has made it very, very clear that it doesn't like you. I think that's very, very relevant for me and for many people around the world right now. But I just think there were too many failures for me to ignore them. The visuals didn't work for me. I can't stress enough how bad it is that there were really no memorable songs. Like I won't be singing anything from this film, and like how can that be with a Wicked film? But anyway, I found the Wizard of Oz storylines to be clunky, rushed, and somehow dragged out as well. This film managed to feel longer than the previous film, which is actually like 30 minutes longer in runtime. Which I don't know how.
Whoa, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
yeah.
Interesting.
The
Yeah, no,
last
it
one was
definitely
much
feels
longer.
longer. Mm.
Yeah, and that was a problem for me. I think Michelle Yeoh was very, very bad in this, I'm afraid. And it's not easy for me to say that, but that's how I felt. And also the big one for me is that this film just feels very male centered, and that might be coming from the source material. I haven't seen the play, so I can't really say. But I don't know what the message is supposed to be here. Also, given that it's supposed to be a child's movie, I think it's quite dark. It takes a nihilistic point of view, actually. It basically confirms that people are dumb and that they need somebody to hate. And that's the reason why Elphaba has to take what she can, which is Fiyero, and go off across over the rainbow. So yeah, it's very there was nothing really gripping me here, I'm afraid. But I will maintain costume design was good, and yeah, I think costume design and that one song and the performances, to be fair. The performances from Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, and Ariana Grande, excellent again. But everything else just didn't work for me. What about you?
I'll give Wicked for Good a 6 out of 10.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The reason is because whilst I think the film is deeply flawed, I was entertained. I wasn't bored in the cinema. And that is off of the virtue of the charisma of our three leads. I think if you put the three of them in their costumes and just sat them on a set for 2 hours, I'll watch whatever they do. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
The story doesn't make any sense, but I already knew the story didn't make any sense because, like I said, I watched the musical and I cannot recall a single thing from Act 2. So I really went in there like, this plot has nothing to do with anything. And no shade, I didn't trust that John M. Chu is the person that's going to be able to transform such a problematic script into something very rich, because I don't think it's his handling of the scripts that makes the first movie good.
Mm-hmm.
The first movie is good because the first act is very strong with the music, and all our leading actors are very good. So once you remove the strong music from this and the fascinating build up of the story from the second act, all you're left with is the actors. So off of their charisma, it was still able to be entertaining for me. But is it a technically seriously good film? No. It's a deeply unserious film, but in a weird way, that's what I grew to enjoy about it. Is I was like, this is just like, this is a farce. This is not. This is silliness. This is nonsense. The CGI is shocking. The animals look worse than the first film. The coloring looks even worse somehow. This film looks worse than The Wizard of Oz, which was made almost 100 years ago. It makes no sense at multiple times, and the way they are singing whilst a little girl is trapped underground and they're hugging and crying and having their little sapphic love fest is hilarious to me. I think the solution to everybody's problems in this film is polyamory and a throuple, and they should have just gone there. And that's what they all needed and what they were dancing around. I thought that Ethan Slater was really fun and really good as Bok, and I enjoyed Nessa Rose as well. I thought that Michelle Yeoh was so bad, it was almost kind of good. I'm going to miss having these people in our universe, but it's time for us to move on now. I hear that they're talking about a potential other spin off. No.
No, there's no need.
Thanks for listening. We'll speak to you next time.